absolutely overtopping the emergency spillway. This bright white thing right there, that's the emergency spillway. And it's concrete, it's not bright white. That bright white is water. It is at the very top of the dam. The water has never been this high since this dam was built. Today is the highest it's ever been. Right now, the second is the highest it's ever been. The top of the emergency spillway right here is 901 feet. There's no 6 feet. I bet it's not even at a 900 section, but that's going to happen at some point. Oh yeah, it's absolutely overflowing. There's a little access road right there, and it's absolutely overflowing that. So it's filled up that little pond behind the access road, and it's going to sweep that access road away here very shortly. There's the dam. It's giant. It is really a monstrosity. Everybody getting good video feeds? Or at least sporadic? No kidding, comma. Just stay away from the tweakers. That is a giant piece of bedrock, if I had to guess. No, there's not any real danger to houses right now. The actual flow of the river is much less than its highest point. But later this week, that could all change drastically. This is some blue, like dark blue-gray granite that is just extremely hard. Wednesday and Thursday there's going to be sorry, I'm trying to post some stuff here. I don't know if it's going to cut off the feed. Wednesday and Thursday there's going to be a huge big storm going on for a week. So it's basically this is the very beginning of a huge train wreck. So you guys can hear can you hear any of the birds? There's helicopters all over, not as many as yesterday. There were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people working on the face yesterday. Yeah, I would suspect next week they'll definitely evacuate people. You're welcome, you're welcome. I would have been here anyway. I'm a junkie for this stuff. I don't believe the dam is in any risk of failing. It's way over there. It would have to just... bad stuff would happen. I am across from the spillway. So there's, you know... if you look on the Google Maps, you could probably figure out right where I am. I'm on this clearing, PG&E clearing. The actual dam face is quite a bit higher than any of this stuff over here. Like, this is way higher by a good maybe 20 feet than this right here. So 20 feet of water would have to be coming over this for it to get to the top of that. That is not going to happen. There's no, like, that ain't a real thing. I mean, you know, historically, the future is wide open. This is the Feather River, and the Feather River goes into the Sacramento River, I believe right above the Sacramento airport. The local news helicopters, I believe, were told to leave. Any access to view this has been totally blocked off. You have to hike a few miles to get here. I have not seen the flood drawing, but I don't even have to see it. I know it would be absolutely catastrophic. I mean, that concrete they poured yesterday, they might as well have brought up a palm reader to cast a spell on it. I mean, that just ain't gonna do nothing. Yeah, that concrete they poured yesterday, I mean, they could have just pissed on it to have the same effect. I believe I'm on a public trail right now. I forget the name of it, but if you look on Google Maps, you can see the trail I'm on. The river is backed up. At some point I'll show you again. Well, actually, you can kind of see right there. The actual floor of the river is full of this stuff. It's extremely shallow, which is causing it to be very wide. Yeah, the bedrock is going to get worn down a little bit, but it's not, I mean, the dam's not going to fail if there's bedrock down there. The problem is, you know, I don't know if there's, you know, anyone who knows is dead. I'd like to think they were smart enough when they built it to make sure that the important parts were under bedrock. Oh, the emergency spillway is absolutely reaching the river right there. So it goes from here down to right there. Shasta is a good couple hours north of here. And it is also completely full. I was actually planning on snowboarding at Shasta today and tomorrow, but this is far more entertaining. I can go snowboarding next weekend. I just got in a nice helmet and gloves too. I'll move down there in a little bit. I actually hiked down there maybe a half hour ago. That red right there is what's coming from right here. I'll go down there in a little bit, but I just got back from there. Not looking to hike down there and back again just yet. You can see it over on the left corner there. It's getting more. I mean, oh, there's actually a few little channels now. Yeah, it's gonna get worse throughout the day. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, up here you can start to see it's eroding. It's eroding away that little access road right beneath the emergency spillway. I will definitely stay safe. I had to hike quite a bit yesterday and didn't know the exact path, and I kind of slipped and fell and hurt my shoulder. It's totally fine. A couple beers made it feel great. Make America great again. Yeah, so the only way to drain water out of the dam right now is this. The power plant over there has been shut down. So they can't release water from under the lake. The only way they can release it is from the top. So that means they can't draw down. I'm not exactly sure what a danger noodle is. There is a ton of water flowing down here now. Probably move my chair in a little bit. Water has flooded the power plant. The generators are underwater, I believe. There's aerial footage where you can see the actual entrance to all that is way more underwater than it should be. So the power plant's probably not coming back online for a while, which means that there's no water being let out of the dam except from the top, which means that the lake can't absorb any future rain. That there's not going to be any water control for the rest of the winter, or till summer. Whatever at this point, whatever is flowing into Lake Oroville is going to flow right out again, even if it gets up to 200,000 feet. I believe the term global climate change is the new one, and of course that caused this, right? Isn't that what we're all brainwashed to believe? Bad maintenance didn't cause this. Global warming did. Surely someone can figure out a way to blame George Bush for this. Hell yeah, America. PG&E guys are totally gone. They have vacated the scene. Global Trump change. That's right. I guarantee this is the political implications of this are going to be far, wide, and long. Yeah, the road up there, that access road right beneath the spillway, is being overtopped almost by its whole length. Once that little pool is full and the whole spillway's worth of water is coming down that hillside, it's gonna be a bit crazier for sure. The damage is not moving up the spillway. I believe that's why they have it running so slow. They could let 4 times the water out right now, but they're not, because they don't want that erosion to creep back up into the dam. That would be the end right there. That would be completely bad news. it's not gonna collapse. It's gonna erode down to the bedrock. How deep is the bedrock? I have no idea. The mud flow is now, you can see it's filled up this whole area right here. I mean, in previous years it's rained until June. Sometimes it's totally dry, sometimes it rains constantly until June. If it does that, this is gonna go south. This is not gonna be good. Yeah, you can tell the water's getting cranked up. I mean, the emergency spillway is going down to bedrock. There is no outcome where that is not going to happen. It's just fantasy. The amount of mud and rock it's moving right now is insane. And once it really starts flowing, it's going to be bedrock. There's no way around it. Yeah, the creek is not out of its banks yet, and it probably won't. That won't happen today. Kick my feet up here. The river is not very high right now. The river could be twice as high when we're talking about cubic feet per second. I believe the river is only at like 60, 70, 80 maybe. I believe the depth to we really need to get Todd Hoffman's crew out here to bumble around and spend insane amounts of money to you know, not fix this problem. I think that would probably help. There is a huge debris pile right here. The mud, this water over here, the emergency is just starting. But you can see down here, there's the bed of the river is totally full. It's full of huge boulders, so it's very shallow, which is causing it to be very wide. I don't think I can zoom. All right, here. All right, so down here you can see, like, that's all the mud. That's all the mud. I know, you guys need to chill out. So it's coming from up here all the way to down here. You can see it's, you know, it's everywhere right there. Specifically right there, you can see how fast it's moving. It's not good. That is the emergency spillway flow right here. So that white bit is the emergency spillway, and it's coming down and going into the river right there. That just started about 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago it was just a little trickle up there, but now there's so much water it's white, and it's just getting more. It's actually it's much more right now than it was even a half hour ago. Thank you. gonna move my chair. Hold on. Oh yeah. There we go. Can you see the? Can you see down here? Okay now. Yeah, if anybody wants to bring a drone out here and take over, I'm cool with that. I put my hoodie back on. My bald head is burning up. Global warming, drought. Hold on. All right, there we go. You know, hopefully I thought I was brave. There is a truck. There is a truck leaving the scene over there. Oh no, it looks like you stopped. I would love to go over there. Maybe this afternoon. I have a buddy. With a property way up in here. The city could quad me into there. Oops. Trying to find a comfortable position here. Yep, the water is coming over the emergency spillway. Yeah, there was a Forest Service truck out there leaving the scene pretty fast. Pretty brave. The spillway is not going to fail right now. If it's going to fail, it's going to be next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Huge storms coming through for the next week after that. That's when the real damage is going to happen. This is an iPhone 6 Plus, I believe. My apologies for any poor quality. I'm in a very remote spot. I had to hike quite a bit to get here, and I'm under. Well, these power lines aren't on right now. Probably 20 or 30 minute hike. Wasn't that bad. I would highly recommend it. Well, they absolutely cannot empty any water before next week. Oh yeah. Oh shit. Oh my God. So water has begun to pour around the side of the emergency spillway right there. That's the parking lot, and there's that's not concrete, it's just pouring around the side. Pouring around the side of the emergency spillway. That's bad right there. That's bad. Yeah, there's a boat launch. Behind this, there's a boat launch. If you look at the satellite images, there's a boat launch back there. But the water is going around the emergency spillway now. Here's the dam. There's the dam. It's giant. It's a monstrosity. The pictures don't do it any justice. I haven't seen any debris come down the real spillway, which is right here. The emergency spillway is 100%. All that mud, that is all debris. It is nothing but debris. I bet that water is 20% debris. The top of the dam, I believe, is 922 feet over there. I'm thinking I'm 1,000 or 2,000 feet from it over there. I'm at about 600 feet right here. the water coming out the emergency spillway is right there. So it goes from there all the way to right there. It's not a big river yet, but it's a lot of water. And it's going to be way more. There's your on-scene reporter right here. There's another guy in a helicopter right there, going to do some power line action hero stuff. Oh, it's expanding. Like in the next, hour or two, the amount of water coming out of here going down there is going to double. There's just no way around it. You can see where it's starting to eat that up right there. From what I understand, the cops told the news cameras to get out of here. I don't know if that's still the case. They would have a much better view. This is the emergency spillway right there. All of this land right there, they call it the emergency spillway. Right there, just a bunch of land on the left side of the dam. That's the actual spillway right there. It used to be a little thin thing right there. Now it's, all that. It's giant. I believe I am completely safe right here. I am 2/3 of the elevation of the height of the dam and a couple thousand feet away. Next week when a new giant storm comes, I don't know that I would hang out here. Yeah, they are letting out as much as they risk right now. They're letting out a lot of water. It's not super loud because I'm pretty far away, but I can hear it. Well, I'm glad the voice sounds great. I wish the video was better. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I'm out here, is because the news is not covering this. They are, they're covering this through rose-colored goggles. I'm thinking double rose-colored, if not triple. They just have not been super honest. It's because it's an absolute disaster. Like, why would they don't want people to know about this? Does anybody know, like, is this video going to be online later? I don't want to give my exact the way I got here, but if you look at the PG&E access, this clear trail right here, if you go behind me a couple miles, you can find a spot to park and hike in here. You can come join me right now. That's Lake Oroville, the biggest dam, the tallest dam in the country. That's its broken spillway. That is the emergency spillway, which was just topped a couple hours ago. And that is the water from the emergency spillway. Excellent. Hopefully someone's recording this for posterity. I would like to watch it later. I've been staring at this damn screen for too long. Am I famous? I would totally take a call from any national news. No, I don't think this is recording though. I think this is live. Does that actually record? I've never used this before. I don't want 15 minutes. I'm cool. Let's keep this related to the dam. I would love to talk to Trump. I mean, that would be rad. I would totally talk to him. Goodness, right here. Damn. Sweet. I'm super stoked this is saved because this is once in a lifetime stuff. You guys should pop a beer. Join me. This is my Saturday. This is about the most exciting thing I could have thought to do. I was gonna go snowboarding up at Mount Shasta today, but this is free and extremely exciting. Whiskey's totally okay. Totally okay. I wish I had some whiskey. If anybody wants to bring me some whiskey, that would be cool. Please bring me a hat. My bald head is just getting sunburned. This guy, block user. This guy talking about aliens and Snowden. I mean, I believe half of it, but let's keep this dam related, or at least mostly reality related. Really, really, really nice day out. I mean, it is so nice. I have my hoodie top on my head right now. Sorry about the swearing. Yes, earlier I hiked down there. I'll go down there again in a little bit. You know, 20-30 minutes maybe. I'm lazy. I'm sitting in a chair right now with my feet up. I'll go down there again. Don't worry about it. You know, I'm not sure which deity this dam is under. You know, God, I'm thinking this might be a Zeus dam, so technically, yeah, this could be a goddamn. The people working on the power lines are gone. They've taken off. This is not an Allah dam. There's definitely some snack bar action going on here. I mean, I know they increased it. I'm sitting here telling you they increased it a little bit. You can see this area right here where it's cut out. That's getting bigger, like right now. Yep, some guy on a bike just went down there. This is a trail. There's an actual trail you could bike here right now. No, there's no danger of the dam collapsing today. No, I mean, next week, maybe. I would say this is absolutely newsworthy. This is way more interesting than any of the political whining going on right now. Money. Why didn't they maintain the dam? Money is the bottom line. In 2013, they did a repair on the part that actually failed. And obviously that repair in 2013 was not good enough. This is technically, you know, illegal water migration. It's possible. Anything's possible. This is undocumented water over here. Like, this is unpermitted, undocumented. This is definitely a high capacity dam. Next week, when a big storm comes next week, anything is possible. They have no idea how much bedrock is under there. So I mean, if a bunch of water comes, it's all in the open. I personally know the data that the DWR has been saying, some of it has not been 100% correct. I don't know if that was unintentional or you know, whatever. I'm not here to say anything about it other than that. So you can see the red over here. This is all water. All water right there. That's a ton of water coming down. Hey, I have a buddy in Montana. His name's Justin. He's an awesome guy. The water is absolutely running off 3 power lines down. The water is absolutely running around the power lines. Right now it's just a little piss trickle, so it's not much at all. I suspect within the next hour or two it's going to be pretty darn impressive. Nope, he does not raise rabbits. I bet he wishes he did though, because that sounds really fun and beneficial. Wascally Rabbit. So this here again, what used to be right here is the actual spillway. It's all, you know, pretty much gone now. Now it's like this. This right here is the emergency spillway. So that right there is the emergency spillway. Emergency spillway. I believe all these power lines are totally shut down. The power plant is actually turned off right now. From what I understand, the generators are underwater. So it's going to be a long time before the dam can let out water from its base, which is super scary if you think about what's going to happen next week. I think their main fear is that the emergency spillway is going to cut into the main spillway and erode the actual gates up at the top. If that happens, that would be catastrophic, and it would double the price of this whole thing. Yeah, so I mean, that looks like it's close, but in reality, I mean, there's probably hundreds of feet between that power line and here. But that power line, those are all off. All these power lines are all off. There's no electricity running through here. So the scariest part of what's going on right now is water is going around the emergency spillway. Like, this is a parking lot back here, and the water's going around it. That is going to be a problem, a real big problem. I hope not. I hope not, but I believe it's bad. I wonder if anybody I know is watching this. I get a feeling more people are watching this than I'm understanding. What's the farthest away person here? Anybody from Australia? Anybody from the East Coast? Yeah, true. Props out to Ohio, Indiana, Bama, UK, nice. Props out to Bama, Bama shooter, good guy. A while. My emergency battery is at, backup battery is at 75%. Backup battery is at 75%. Let me check primary battery. I appear to be burning battery faster than I'm putting it in, so hopefully it doesn't cut out. I'll put my battery in the shade here. Beer percentage is about 60%. This is beer number 2. Almost done. Probably one drink left. Here it goes. You know, all I'm going to say is I'm all about freedom. And you can just take that and think whatever you want. It's my right. My right. The red over here, I mean, this is all bad. It's possible that they are from TV stations. From what I understand, the local TV station got ran off earlier. I just don't know. I don't know what's up with that. Secondary provisions are untapped as of yet, 100%. The only beer I have left unopened is something called a Trip in the Woods, and it's a big giant 24-ounce beer, and it's probably 11%. I'm not going to drink that fast. I'm not really obsessed with this area. I just like watching stuff. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch this? I mean, what on earth is more entertaining than this right now? I mean, nothing. I would fly here. I would fly here in an airplane just to come watch this, and I just happen to live a few hours away in the wintertime. Oh yeah. The runoff from the emergency is going to be complete and catastrophic. I'll hopefully come back here tomorrow. And this, you know, penguins can fly a little bit. When they jump off an iceberg, they're flying for a second. This whole area is going to be gone, down to bedrock. In a number of days, I would suspect. I can attest that California is full of derp. The problem is that the countryside in California is just as magnificent as you know, anywhere. You can stay away from the derp. I have clients who moved into the area from Yellowstone, and they tell me this area has everything within the same reach except for all the tourists. Like within a couple hours we have glaciers, deserts, rainforests, coasts, Black Rock City, just anything you can imagine is a couple hours from here. And that's why I like it. I like to come out here. Oh, it's definitely worse. So up here, there's a little access road right beneath the emergency spillway. If you pull it up on the Google Maps, you can see there's probably a pool up there, and that road is going to erode away, and it's probably eroding away right now. But as soon as it reaches, then we'll see some goodies. The river is definitely going up. The river level is definitely going up. Oh my God, the whole hillside down here. I don't know if you can see it behind that power pole, but the whole hillside is just washing away. Wow. That's crazy. I'm probably gonna have to go down there again a little bit. Yeah, so this chunk out of this corner right here has grown. I mean, it seems like it's growing quite a bit just while I've been here. Like what's beneath that power line. Man, wouldn't that be crazy if that power line fell over? Alright, fine. I'm obsessed. All the red down here is water. It's hard to see, but it is, you know, the water's coming down, and just this whole area is coming down into the river there. Oh, when it's all dried up, I will absolutely come back and show you. I'm not sure it'd actually be such a bad thing if the emergency spillway water got into the regular spillway right here. Like, I actually think that might be beneficial. I'm actually kind of wondering. Yeah, I mean, that just seems like a great idea. I'm thinking we're into the hundreds of millions here. I don't know for sure. I work on, you know, not related things. Next week's storm's going to be real big, and it's coming Wednesday, Thursday. It's going to do way worse damage to this because the lake cannot be drained by the power plant because the power plant's offline. So the only way to take water out is from the top, and the top, you know, it's up there. They need to drain water from the bottom of the lake. 10 millimeter for the win. They need to get a hold of the contractor that did the original repair job in 2013. I'm thinking his you know, liability limits are probably going to be reached. That's what I'm talking about. The 10 Mike is the way to go. DWR has been how to say this, you know, they've been putting the story through rose-colored glasses. You know, I don't know if they're intentionally not telling you what's up, but they're not telling you what's up. You can see the water across the emergency spillway right now is absolutely insane. I bet it's at least a half foot or a foot up. sweet. Should have brought 2 devices. One so I could do this, and one so I could not do this. Tomorrow I might bring a second device with that exact intention. My hands are getting tired, sorry. Heck yeah. Shout out to Paradise. You can see water is coming around the emergency spillway, which is just not. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't seem like a good thing. I will film until my batteries are out. I have my backup battery is at 50%. My phone is at about 20%. I suspect I have another hour or 2. Yeah, I probably could set this up. Here, I'm going to try and just set it up on my chair so I can just walk around for a minute and take a little walk. Bear with me. How's that look? Yeah, no problems to see here. How's that look? Can you see the muddy water on the far left and the dam? So is this a good spot? Excellent. I'm just and go open up my yeah, it's good. You can actually see less at the top. This is really the best spot in the country right here. Alright, I'm out of here for a few minutes. Enjoy.
the new stuff is that? Is that why they bought it?
Mm-hmm.
That's weird.
It's all weird. It's all kind of has a shade of weird.
So if there's something flying off, what do they block?
Watching that. How's everybody doing? Yeah, we're watching the emergency spillway runoff down there. Hopefully you can see it now. Bottom left, 3 power poles down is where all the mud, and it is nasty, nasty, nasty mud rolling into the river. Just don't, I have terrible equipment here. Like, I don't have, oh, how about that? There we go. Is that better? That a little better? Here shortly, that access road will give away, which will give us a good gush of water down the emergency spillway. I'm actually taking a little snack right now. How's everybody doing? Got some trail mix here. Feel free to send me beer. Arf still watching? Man, someone needs to bring a pizza out here. That would be great. The brown you're seeing at the very top is the water mixing with the shitty red dirt. You know, causing brown water. Fuck me, rock. I don't know how many people are watching this, so I'm not trying to cuss on air. I think that's just on Periscope. Many more people on Twitter. going down the spillway. Hillside. That is actual mud. Right here. Spillway. So once it gets to the bottom of the spillway, it's just going to sit at that level essentially until the next storm comes, and this is all going to happen. It's all going to happen over again. Here, I'm waving back. Can you see me? Later today, I'm hoping to go up onto the left side there. I have somebody with a property out there that's going to take me up to the edge on his quad. See how that works out. Might have a friend let me into the actual inside of the dam tomorrow. No, can't promise that, but that would be really sweet. I don't know what canal I would be above. I'm at about 600 feet here. Top of the dam's about 900 feet. I'm a good 1,000 or 2 feet away from the spillway. I don't believe I'm in any danger here, even if the worst case were to happen, which it's definitely not going to happen today at least. The erosion is definitely traveling up.
Sloshing in the lake, if you will, if you get...
The spillway is far from maxed out. They can let out 4 times as much water. Right now it's at about 8,000 cubic feet a second, maybe 2.
This is the feature that has the damage to it, the erosion that we've been talking about for the last several days. And so we are continuing to spill water down that structure, knowing full well that we're basically sacrificing the lower portion of it. You know, we're having continued erosion, and that's being monitored continuously. As long as the erosion doesn't get beyond what our dam safety engineers and project geologists think is a safe condition. So we're continuing to monitor it continuously. We have cameras on it. We have people observing it around the clock. So we're continuing to use that spillway. We anticipate that the duration of the spill that is currently going over the auxiliary spillway will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 38 to 56 hours. So that's a range of 38 to 56 hours. We think during that time period, the lake will actually drop and the spill will cease. So the inflows to Lake Oroville, because the storms have finally stopped, are gradually decreasing. So and that's going to slowly lower the surface of the lake over time. And as I said, we anticipate that spill ceasing somewhere between 38 to 56 hours from now. And I guess that is, let's see, that's all I have for now, but I did want to introduce the California Department of Water Resources Acting Deputy Director, Bill Croyle. Acting Director, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you for being Bill Croyle, C-R-O-Y-L-E, in Acting Director. I think I misspoke earlier. Acting Director of Water Resources. So what I'll do is quickly kind of run in a little bit more detail on some of our efforts, our challenges that we have in front of us, and what that really means for the dam itself and the levee system and the public downstream. So again, we have quite a bit of damage, as Eric said. What we call about station, the hole or the erosion started at station about 3250, so about 3,200 feet from the radial arm gates. And then as soon as this happened, we spent quite a bit of time looking at what our options were to try to repair that damage. At the same time, remodeling the reservoir, both inflow and the forecast that was in front of us. And so it took us a little while to make sure we vetted all of our options were to get into this hole once we turned the water off, including putting people down in the hole to assess the underlying geology and the structure itself to see, A, what we could do to repair it, but also, if we couldn't repair it, what kind of erosion or impact we might see. Frankly, not so much what of the infrastructure downgrading or down the spill, but looking really upgrading it, knowing that we have competent structure above, but we need to understand what that is so that we can monitor with the amount of water coming down here is an awful lot of energy, and the energy has the potential to cause more damage. Or what we see is we're monitoring how fast the erosion up this spillway occurs. So that is stabilized. The water now we run, as Eric said, is 55,000 CFS, and we're running clear water down to the base of the river, which is good news. That means our system is stabilized. But with that, between when it started and now, we've identified a number of concerns that we have, and again, we're working through the contingency plans and implementing those plans to prevent more damage to our spillway system, protecting our powerhouse here at the bottom of the dam, and then better understanding the impact of the use of this auxiliary spill well. I got it right. So one of the things with all this material coming down the hill is we have a pile of sediment at the bottom of this. A lot of material came off the hill, and I know I've been talking since Tuesday about this is not going to look the same every day. And we're seeing more material come down with today's flow over the weir. We did a lot of work to try to remove some of the debris from the upper portions of this spillway to protect ultimately the basin and downstream control structures at the dam and then downstream for the river. And so they did an awful lot of work, amazing amount of work in a couple of short days, removing trees, reinforcing some of the areas that we, watching this happen, understanding the energy, go in and reinforce some of those areas to add another level of reducing that risk or improving our safety factors. The downside with some of this is, of course, this is very bad. We're going to fix this. We already have the team set up to work on coming up with our repair strategies, is dealing with this pile of sediment and rock and debris that's down here because it's backed water up to the powerhouse. So one of the concerns is making sure backing water up to the powerhouse threatens the use of that powerhouse and ultimately, how soon we could put it back in operation. So we are looking at contingency measures to reduce this water level, essentially removing some of this material to release this water and to flow downstream so that we can make sure we protect this powerhouse. We do not want any part of the powerhouse flooded and contaminated with this dirty water. So we've done that. One of the other challenges we have is there's three ways to get water out of behind this dam. One is the powerhouse, one is the spillway, and the other is the auxiliary spillway. So we have a damaged spillway and no powerhouse right now. So we've, for the first time, as Eric indicated ever, we're using our auxiliary spillway. This spillway is designed and is really designed on all dams to take what they call a maximum probable flood. So that means when Mother Nature really throws the biggest storm at these structures, the engineers designed this basically to protect the dam itself, to ensure with a super huge event, the dam still stays there, even though the impact of that event that went through this channel would ultimately cause havoc in the valley. Okay, the flows we're seeing across this are extremely low compared to the design of this structure. And so that's one of the things, this is working to help protect the resource we still have here and also give us time to, again, mitigate the concerns or the impact on the power plant so we can get this back into operation and increase the flow from the dam via the power plant. One of the challenges we have is there's power lines that come through this region to the plant that connect the plant to the grid. This plant cannot operate without being connected to the grid. So this is, at the time the design of this plant way back in the 60s was not the kind of plant that you can take offline and still run water through the power plant. Okay, that's just the way it's designed and that's what it is. So one of the concerns we have to maintain, if we're going to use it, we have to maintain the connection of the plant to the grid. But we have a tower right here. So the concern is as we have erosion downgrading here, we want to make sure that we don't erode too much soil or material that impacts that tower. So again, we have monitoring on it, we have cameras on it. We're continuously assessing the rate of erosion. Again, that stabilizes. The last information I had was 24/7 monitoring. Right now, we're not using the power plant, so if we lose the line, it doesn't impact the plant. And we're working with PG&E, and I see him here, so thank you very much, because PG&E's been a huge partner as we come up with addressing the issue on the power plant and hooking to the grid. There are towers and their lines, but they also have lines that they've gone in yesterday and removed poles and wire through this outflow structure, and again, but they're maintaining a power source to the plant so we can do what we need to do, operate gates, etc. So we have a concern and a threat here that we're working on. We have a concern here that we're working on. And then now looking forward, similar to this threat, moving water down through this system also puts more material in the diversion dam pool. So the contingency measures that we're looking at here and implementing to reduce the flow in this area and get this water out of here, so hopefully we can turn this plant back on, will also be the same contingency measures we use over here, again, to do the same thing. Now, we do have a lot of water coming down through here, so that'll help keep the sediment out of pulling up and building like a sandbar that we see here. So that's the kind of the dynamics of some of our contingency planning right now. Okay, we're dealing with what's happening right now. We made it through the wet part of the storm. We're on the back side of the hydrograph, so it's coming down. The lower that gets, these flows will reduce, and then we'll get back to digging into the storage and getting some more water out of the reservoir down this chute. Okay.
Future forecast, rainfall.
Yeah, future forecast, Doug, thank you. So we're going to have a period of dry weather here. It looks like, I think, in this area Thursday, look like we'll see some weather. It'll be a big difference in the storm that we just had. So I think I just saw the 10-day forecast for this region came out. So we look, I think, 4 or 5 days of some rain. But the key is that it's cool. It's cold. The snow level went from 9,000 in this last storm, which is quite high, down to 4,000, which is more typical for this time of year. That's key for us because it'll fall in the form of snow and stay there. It won't run off and fill up our reservoir, at least right away. So thanks for that, Doug. Part of this is what else are we considering or are we worried about? We're worried about, we do have a storm coming in. Based on our current conditions, again, in 32 to 56 hours, we should see the flow over the weir stop. We'll continue to push 55,000 CFS down the middle of the reservoir, and then we'll see more storage generated in the reservoir and enough storage to make it through the next storm without threatening the use of this. But we'll see. You know, we're 5 days out from the forecast. This is Mother Nature kind of kicking us a few times here. And so we will continue to model the inflow and the outflow of this reservoir 4 times a day. And then we change our contingency plans and the decisions we make based on those models and forecasts. So we do that here, and then we'll push that information out through our JIC and through meetings like this. And so that, you know, what that means for the dam, the community, and those levee districts all the way to Sacramento will be informed. Again, the JIC is standing up. It's going to be resourced more, so we'll be able to be more functional with all forms of communication. That will help keep everyone well informed of what this means. Backing up to our current situation, the dam is not threatened by these conditions. These flows coming out of the dam, I hate to say it, from any one of these 3 options are typical flows for this kind of runoff period. We're going to see flows come up and down based on the storage graph or the hydrograph of the storms coming in. The big difference here, normally you wouldn't see these changes and we wouldn't be talking about this very much because as those big events come in like this last few days, the storage pool within the reservoir attenuates that and you don't even see a change in the river itself. But these flows are regulated by the Army Corps of Engineers and we're required to release those flows at a certain rate. The problem we have now is we've lost the ability to dial outflow here, and we're uncontrolled here. So the only way we can really move these things up and down is here, and we're going to be limited on what we can do through the spillway because we want to maintain integrity with the system we still have. Okay? So we have 2.8 million acre feet of water in the form of snow above this reservoir. Now that will change with storm storm events and melt. But we have right now in this part of the state, we're exceeding the record rainfall rate for the season of 1982 and 83. The total rainfall at that time for what we call the 8-station index was 83.3 inches. We're not there yet, but if you look at the curve on what the hydrograph, the rainfall for that year is, we're far above it as of this date. So if we continue this wet pattern, which would be, a wet pattern, then that puts us above that 82, 83. So we got to deal with that, but we also have to deal again with the snowpack, which we desperately want, right? We've gone through 5 years of drought, and the snowpack is one of our really critical water storage reservoirs in the state. We haven't had that the last number of years. Now we have a lot. I think last I looked, it's been a couple days, 156% statewide on our snowpack, which is a good thing coming off this dry areas. But in this kind of a situation, our next 60 to 90 days will be critical, how we route this runoff, typical runoff period through this reservoir and then into the Feather River. So we're going to do that kind of winged on our damaged spillway. We want to obviously get our power plant back up and functioning, because that's one of the ways we can increase or decrease our flow out of our reservoir. And then when this flow stops, the auxiliary spillway, we're going to go back into this area and continue to clean and grub this area out to the extent that we do get a bigger storm event and need to push more water over the spillway. This spillway, by design, can carry 270,000 acre-feet of water, okay? It's the most water that's been down it in the past is 150,000 CFS. And the reason for that was really the downstream capacity of the levee systems, which is, as I recall, about 160, 170. Okay, in other words, flows like this we can easily pass with no flood threat to this community and downstream levee systems. Now, if we get into a big storm event and we don't have the pool and the reservoir that we need to attenuate that, then these flows, uncontrolled flows, will be a threat. So that'll be part of our forecasting and communication with the public. If we see those storms coming or something that looks like it might produce a runoff like that, then that's what we're going to need to talk about. And that's when we, through our Flood Operations Center, which are activated today for other reasons, would communicate with the local and managers, the state emergency managers, the levee districts, and the communities that were threatened, if that happens. I just want to put that out there. There's a lot of snow up there, and we're going to be really busy dealing with the infrastructure challenges that we have, but also continuous routing of our weather forecasts through the reservoir at really all times, and communicating our findings out to our partner agencies responding to this situation, but also all of you and the public.
Bill, snowpack is now 180% of normal for today's date, okay. And rainfall in Northern California is 228%.
Okay, so reiterate. Yeah. So snowpack statewide?
180 statewide.
What is 180%?
And rainfall 228 in Northern California.
So 220% in Northern California. Is that the 8-station index?
Yes.
Okay.
228%.
228% in the 8-station index. Okay. So I think I covered a little bit, and I anticipate your questions, so bring some good ones. So again, the storm we just had, we took a little water over the auxiliary spillway, but again, based on our forecast and our modeling, this will peak, again, 32 to 56 hours, and then we'll start making room for the next storm. But as of today, we shouldn't see a flow over the auxiliary spillway. When I say that, though, things have been very dynamic and changed, and we could still have a spill. But we will keep you informed on a daily basis of the latest information we have. Again, the storm is projected to come in cold or snow level at 4,000, and that's a good thing. That gives us a little time to, again, address our on-site conditions. Before I forget, we will be looking for an opportunity for some dry weather. We've looking at designing a contingency plan to further protect the spillway itself, which means we might have to turn it off to install it. Okay, so we would turn this system off, jump down in the spillway with our equipment, install that protective measure, basically protecting the edge that's eroded off or broken away so that it doesn't continue to degrade, okay? So that's key for us. So we will be looking for an opportunity to jump in that canal or the channel and do that. But I want to kind of put that out there because that means we will turn off the spillway to do it, right? And so that will bring up questions like, don't you need to get the water out of the reservoir? Yes, we do. But we want to do that so if we can, is increase the amount of water we can move through the spillway at any given time. Hopefully that makes sense. If not,
You would do that even if you're encroaching in the flood space?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, clear weather.
Yes, we would. Yep. Long range. So, again, we're going to need to work very hard, work closely together as we move through the runoff period. Again, typically next 60 to 90 days. It could be longer. If it stays cool, that's good because the snow will come off slower. It gives us, again, more time to get water out of the reservoir. But we need to get back in and start rebuilding the system. The team's already been put in place. The options are being considered. We want to go back into next winter with a rebuilt spillway. I also want to say it might not be here, okay? Because we're going to need to design fast and install fast. So it might be somewhere else related to the dam structure. And then we're already talking about our options. If you move it over here, which could be drier faster, and we can get in and start working and still continue to use this, we want to go back in and what does that do to this structure itself and the ability of the reservoir to pass that maximum credible flood.
Ready for questions?
Maybe to reiterate, then we'll move the questions, is the flow rates we see now, even with the use of this auxiliary flow rate, pose no threat to the dam and no flood threat to the downstream water. Okay? For this storm we just had, and the storm, based on our current forecast, the storm we're about to get, say, next Thursday or Friday. Anything past that, we got to wait for Mother Nature to kind of send us some signals on what that might look like.
So just to reiterate your point, the residents at this point don't need to fear that they may have to be evacuated, that there's flood danger that would go into populated areas.
Right, that's exactly right. Yeah, in Oroville. But since, it's a good question because one of the things I want to highlight, because of the snowpack we have right now in the Central Valley and the San Joaquin Valley, we have reservoirs or at their flood control. Most of them have a lot more storage space where they're supposed to be. But as an example, Shasta Lake was encroached a little bit during this storm to allow Cottonwood Creek, Battle Creek, and others to push that water out. Now those streams and rivers are going down. Now Shasta will bring up and be able to dump the water out of Shasta by design so we don't overtax the flood control system all the way down past Sacramento into the Delta. So we've already opened, as an example, the Sacramento Weir. And so a question came up, are you opening the Weir because of Oroville Dam? It has nothing to do with Oroville Dam. It has everything to do with the regional management of our high water situation that we have right now. I think the American River yesterday was 80,000 CFS, pretty high. And so we're managing the flood control system through our Flood Operations Center in concert with our emergency management agencies, Cal OES, the levee districts, and they're doing daily conference calls right now. I think down in McCullamy, they had a levee break this morning. I think that just goes to show that we do have some high water conditions in and around the region. Right here, we don't have a high water condition, but we anticipate the need to manage high water for the remainder of this spring runoff period.
Help me with the math problem. The inflow is still in the neighborhood of around 90,000 CFS. You're pushing 55,000 out the main spillway. Why won't the auxiliary spillway go to 35,000 or something in that neighborhood?
Yeah, because that's what gets into as the streams hit the reservoir. So that inflow, the reservoir itself has a kind of a buffering capacity. So as it hits the reservoir, there's a lot of reservoirs. I think 16,000 acres.
Yes, surface.
Yeah, surface that. So you're filling up this much, but when you're at the top of the dam, 6 inches is a lot of water. So it's kind of like this, it surcharges the reservoir, but so as it goes across the reservoir, it kind of flattens out. And so that's the part that's kind of the math part, and that's why the engineers get paid what they get paid, is to model the impacts of that given certain kinds of hydrologic settings. So just because you get 150 in the reservoir doesn't mean you're going to get 150 out, 6 hours later. You might get 90,000 out. It's just because of the ability of the reservoir to kind of expand and contract to the point. It's a big reservoir then coming down to a little outlet. So it takes a lot of time to get there. And that's why we model this stuff every 6, and this time of year we're doing it every 6 hours to go back and check our math. Check the inflow, rerun the models, look at our outputs. In some cases, in best case scenario, we'd be opening and closing gates and hydro systems to match our inflow and maintain our flood control space.
Now, since the power plant is shut down, I guess the foreseeable future.
We're trying to get it open as soon as we can.
Okay. I mean, why was it so important to dial back the releases yesterday evening in order to protect that transmission line since the power plant shut down anyway?
Well, because we're also trying to protect the spillway itself, right? I mean, it's a lot going on. And so we want to maintain the integrity of this spillway. It's critical. So we want to make sure that if we push less water, there's less erosion, even though it's less water, and we put a little water over the auxiliary spillway, this will protect this structure for the duration of the time we need it. If you let this thing rip at 100,000, as an example, we haven't run the numbers at that, but that may accelerate the degradation of this spillway unless we can get in and do something to prepare it for those kinds of flows. We haven't done that. That's that dry weather opportunity that we're looking for, right? So we're trying to protect this system here, which includes protection of the tower. At the same time, it's kind of related, but we have these secondary impacts that we got to be careful and watch out for. And that's the contingency and that reassessment on a continuous basis to understand, kind of the serial type impacts that you might have or the secondary impacts you have by making a decision, right? If you're worried about this, but you weren't watching the water backing up into the power plant, you could take out the power plant even though you've saved the tower, right? And so that's why we have a number of different teams of people. Your job is to protect the power plant. Your job is to monitor and assess the challenge. Another team is working on, making sure we understand how big this pile is and what are our options, 3 different options to remove part of that to get that water to release.
With so much water coming down, how could you conceivably start removing debris from the bottom?
Well, that kind of slowed us up for a couple days, but those are challenging. So, floating barges in, and again, as we look at, again, not only this, but recognizing as we have used this, we need to fully understand how much material will come in here and what is the impact. So our contingency measures need to consider this as well as this now. Even though we might not ever need it here, what is that measure? So, long reach hose on barges is an example of that. That's a typical solution that we would use in agriculture. So the equipment's close by. It's something we would use in the Delta to be able to reach out in a, we don't want people down in here. That's why we're here, is to go up and validate what people are telling us on the phone. We're get down here and get the hose down here and pull this dirt back. And they said, no, you got to come here and see how dangerous this is. And that's one of the other reasons to back this flow off. so we can stop the erosion, get in here to be assessed, and go and then be able to kind of carve this back out if we have to mechanically.
Any idea how much we're going to be looking at in damage, repair, and cleanup? We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars a year. How long of a period of time are we working on this thing?
Well, my objective is to get a spillway back in operation before the wet season next year. So typically that's October 15th or so. It all depends on the year. If you go back a few more years, it went dry for the whole year. So we didn't have a wet season. But October is typically kind of our formal start of flood operations down the Flood Operations Center. That's a lot of that's is eyes and ears and making sure everybody's got the right phone numbers. But we need to watch the weather because we can get some big weather in October. So that's kind of, for me, we need to have structure in place to be able to pass our design flows.
There's no financial people already looking at this in terms of what you're talking about dollars. Can you give us a sense?
A very rough range, and I say that again, we haven't gone in and looked at it. We don't know how much more damage we're going to do. Decisions have to be made on a new one over here or a repair of this one. So the range is huge, but it's I was told yesterday.
It's a very rough range.
Well, what we told the governor yesterday is 100 to 200 million. Again, with the caveats, we don't know a lot about the site itself. Okay. So the resource, we just met with some congressional representatives and some legislative, and so that issue came up, is, funding, state and federal resources. We have the resources we need to start this process, and we will get it done with what we have and with the support of the administration.
Can you explain how you can see from the other side of the river the water looking over the auxiliary spillway? It's hard to say where it's flowing. Is it just ripping down through these trees? Where is it flowing and what's it taking with it?
Yeah, I don't know what's taken with it. I haven't been up there, and it's just...
It's like a big wall that's curled down. So you see the water, but you can't see where it's going.
So we did walk it. I personally walked it last night so I could better understand the dynamics of this and making sure that our teams have done everything we could possibly do. So this, and I don't know exact elevation, but this is like 40 or 50 feet high right here. But over here, it's like 6 inches high. Solid rock. All this is rock. So at a low flow rate, again, I haven't been out there. The picture was great to better understand what it looked like. But we're looking at it from this side. But when you walk it, this is pretty flat up here. Right, so it's going to be sheet flow, and it'll gently go over here. A lot of the flow, in my opinion, will go over the top here, but come down this part of the spillway, down this ravine, and then kind of follow where these trees go, right through here. Okay, now there is this ravine here that comes down and then marries up in this area. This is a pinch point, and we've modeled this now. So we understand where we, at a certain rate, we looked at this at 35,000 and 55,000. What did that look like? And so, again, it's kind of, once it comes over the weir, comes into this area, it's broad and then pinches down and then broadens a little bit out at the bottom.
And the other thing that's kind of spectacular site that you can explain what PG&E people can. They're helicoptering men onto these towers, and they're cutting the cable and taking it off in bolts and stuff. Can you explain exactly what they're doing, and are they going to take the full towers down, or are they just doing some safety stuff to keep dangerous stuff out of the river? What is it that's going on there?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys want to talk about that or not, or... Okay, why don't you come up, and then just in preparation, let me go to another question as you're coming up.
Really quickly, with the event that you talked about in that next few hours, a couple of days, what do you expect the turbidity, or do you know what it's going to be when it takes that material down? How big a spike?
We're going to see a very large spike in the turbidity. I can't give you. I can't give you a number.
Is it a gradual or is it a spike?
Well, we have a lot of turbidity in the river. Now, this is cleaned up. If you look at this area, this is pretty dirty. Now, I guess I'm going to go back to my conversation with the Director of Fish and Wildlife yesterday with the governor. So because of the concern with turbidity and debris getting down into the fish hatchery, they were able to evacuate over 10 million salmon, both fall and spring run. An amazing feat. A lot of teams came together, moved those fish out.
I was there.
You were? Okay, great. And so the key there is there was a recognized threat and action was taken to protect that resource. But talking with the director, he said they had spikes, I think yesterday, at about 2,000 NTUs. And so that's pretty high. And so that's the point that's going to cause trouble with any of the fish that were left behind. So those are the kind of numbers, obviously, we don't want to see in this reach, but we're likely to see because of the nature. The spillway has never been used before. And going back to that little pinch point that we modeled, fortunately, somebody historically mapped how much soil is in that area. There's a couple little tight spots in there that look down to dip down a little hole of 60 feet worth of soil. Right? So if we get a chance, if some of that stuff doesn't get moved by this overflow event, we're going to get in and move that out of the way. So again, if we happen to have a future spill, then that's not going to end up in the river. But, it's going to be dramatic when it hits the river. Is that a spike? I'd call it a spike, but it'll be dramatic, and then it'll be attenuated by the other flow that's coming down. But we will increase turbidity in the river.
Yep. Sure.
Can you get your name, sir?
Sure, it's Denny Boyles, DENNYBOYLES. I'm a PG&E spokesman.
Can you explain what's going on
Sure.
there? And are these lines connected to the power plant that you referenced?
So our transmission line in this area actually predates construction of the dam. So what we did yesterday, you can see just barely there was a transmission line. It's 2 circuits of 230,000 volt lines that crossed the Feather River at that point. We removed, using crews carried by helicopter in a long lining method, we removed the spans of wire between the tower just beneath the dam in the photo here, and then the spans of wire, if you move it up here as well, with the idea that we wanted to, in an abundance of caution, minimize any material that could go into the river if those towers are eroded by the flow through the auxiliary spillway. And we completed that work. We have removed all the wire and conductor from the towers. Unfortunately, water began going over the spillway before we could remove the towers themselves, so they are still in place.
Bill, you mentioned a couple of times options for what's going to happen with the spillway. You talked about possibly a new spillway. Can you talk about the hole itself? A couple of questions on that. First, you mentioned that we're running clear water over the spillway. Does that mean erosion has come to an end on the spillway? And then secondly, what are the options more specifically? Are we going to dump rock in there, put something over it?
Okay, so that's a good question. So as we run clear water, being a flood fighter, whenever you see a boil or any water moving through a levee, if it's clear, it's good. Even though this water moving through a levee is not good, but if it's clear, that means it's not carrying material. So when we saw by reducing the flow from 65 to 55 yesterday, we were able, it took a little while for it to kind of settle down. Again, that allowed us to better monitor the condition of the tower and the areas around it. And then also, we were hoping, and it did, clean up. So it started running clear. Now, when you ask, is it still eroding or did it stop eroding, I don't want to go there because it's running clear, but there's a lot of energy in this system to move the bigger stuff. Running clear means there's no soil or clay particles and sand moving through, but we still have a lot of energy moving down through the system, so we can see rocks and boulders and other things continue to be pushed down. Now, if your question is about the hole, in the spillway?
You were exploring options for a rebuild.
Yeah.
When you talk about specifically the damaged spillway, what are those options?
Yeah, basically, it's a complete replacement. And so, part of that complete replacement, in super simple terms, is you're going to grub the whole area, pull everything that's there out, and you're redesigning using all of our latest materials, all the new building standards. It's a higher level of safety, going back in and basically using best management practices into this spill here or in some other location. That decision needs to be made. Now, part of the key is, where do you start and stop? Okay, in my opinion, it's toast all the way to the bottom. So we got to start from here and move up. If we're going to stay here, we got to start here and move all the way up to some point.
All the way to the top?
Well, it'll be in my, the engineers are on it. There's, better experts than me on this by far. But, so part of that is, if you start trying to rebuild, let's say we want to rebuild or update this gate, that's a completely different project. This is huge. This work is huge. A lot of flat work, a lot of groundwork, but it's completely different than anchoring in a radial arm gate system with all the control systems. And so the time it would take to replace the whole thing really doesn't exist by next year. That's why other options need to be considered. Should we move something outside? What are options? Maybe there's other options that we haven't thought of, like in the dam itself. All those things are being investigated now.
So saying that talking about repairing this one, but having something open next year, are you ultimately going to have 2 spillways?
No, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to insinuate that at all. We got to make a choice on where we're going to do our work. If we do work over here, that impacts their ability for this spillway to pass water, which needs to be factored into the overall protection of the system. If the decision is, and we're a long way from making that decision, long way, in time, but it's got to happen fast, is making the decision if we drop back into this region, we got to make the call on how far up we go, and we're obviously going all the way to the bottom, and what that means, and what is the technical approach to do that. In some ways, this is, for some of us engineers, this is hurtful. Tearing up an engineered structure like this is huge. But with all this water moving down, it's helping us out, because we're going to have to tear it all out anyway. This is, now, I think on Tuesday there was a lot of heartburn on making that decision. You have to let it go. It's gone. And so once you get over that, you can get on with solving the other problems, and we did.
Do you think you waited too long to make that call?
No. No, because there's a whole bunch of conversations and the decisions that are being made on different parts of this. But at the same time, we're looking at how fast can we get trucks in? Where are the trucks? Where is the rock? How much material that is? We had to shut it down. We put people in the hole. At the same time, we're looking at all the other options. And it's going to take some of the time it takes so that you can kind of validate your assumptions. At some point, you got to make the call and move forward in the direction you want. So it's emergency management 1A.
If you build a new spillway at a new site, just to the left on the photo, you have to build new gates as well and a whole new thing. That would seem to be a lot more expensive.
Maybe not. I think those are the numbers we have to run with. But you might be able to take more time to do that if you can, again, better understand the dynamics here in the erosion, do things to help protect that, and then, if you can get that's good to pass the next year, given certain engineering assumptions, you might go ahead and do that. But again, those decisions are all in play right now. Lots of people, the teams come together, the direction's given. Numbers about costs, everybody's thinking about how to pay for that. They'll reach over to the federal government. We'd like to see some critical infrastructure dollars.
So when's the last time that the main spillway was inspected, and what's the best theory as to what started it? Is it just the spalling of the concrete?
That's a good question. So we've been, that's one of the things that we went back. We're talking to the Division of Operation and Maintenance on their inspection records, or their logs and stuff, and so all that stuff's being vetted through. We've been through the safety Safety of Dam, which does independent inspections. So they're the regulatory agency in California that gets into this. So they've gone back 10 years. There is a picture that's floating around on the internet that's dated about 2013 with some trucks parked on the kind of crossway in the spillway, what looks like a seep. We've had the conversations about what that is. And what we think that is part of the normal maintenance that would occur in this kind of a breach, where you go in on an annual basis, you clean out the joints, you pressure wash those joints, and you reseal them. Okay, so the inspection records, which include people walking down this chute, which happened, the last one I saw was 2015. Again, that's an annual deal, and those are available to the media. So if you want them, you can have them, so you can read it for yourself. But there's people physically walking down and inspecting and recording and taking pictures of the condition of that chute.
The July 2015 one, though, said that it was only a visual inspection, that it was not walk.
Yeah.
Does that present an issue?
It doesn't to us.
So last night, we heard that you guys weren't going to be using the emergency spillway, which you guys are now calling an auxiliary spillway. So what happened with the calculation?
Well, the storm came in. It was pretty warm in the beginning of the storm. It kind of parked over us for a little while. Again, these models are occurring every 6 hours. They're remodeling. And so based on that models, we're making decisions based on the best available information. But I was here last night with probably many of you, and when we went home, it was raining pretty hard. And those kinds of events, I'm not saying that caused it, but the change in weather conditions have a dramatic impact on the inflow to the reservoir upstream, and then how that inflow is routed through the reservoir system. So that's part of the error bars we're dealing with. We have 3 different groups modeling independently. One of them is the regulator, in this case, is Safety of Dams, trying to work through the numbers, and if we have a difference in our perspectives, that's the calls that I'm on to make sure I understand what the issues are, how far apart we are, and making sure that we're addressing that. And so this is, to me, this is part of Mother Nature's involved in this. That, sometimes you're on the better side of it, and unfortunately last night we're on kind of slightly over. I think our team and working with our partner agencies has done an amazing job to crank through the numbers. I think we do a better job, and we will work to improve our job to make sure that you have the latest information through our JIC here at the site, to make sure that the information that you're receiving is from this location and with the best available information.
And I was speaking with some people who were preparing to evacuate yesterday on Montgomery Street, and you said that there might be storms coming in at the end of the week. So would you be issuing evacuations again if that does happen?
Absolutely. Nobody's, to my knowledge, has issued evacuation notices.
That's correct.
Yeah. So, but I understand the concern. There's a lot of water behind the dam. But as I said earlier, the flows that we're seeing from whatever source out of the dam right now are like less than a half of what we would normally see in a really tough flood event that would stress our systems. So there's no reason, in my opinion, based on the information we have now, which is available to you, that we should be worried about evacuating any part of this region, given our weather forecast conditions. Now, saying that, getting back to how much snow we have above this reservoir, we're going to need to stay continuously in contact with any changing weather conditions. The looking forward is about 3 to 5 days. When we see if you see one of those Pineapple Express or atmospheric rivers that we talk a lot about, if we see one of those lined up, not just somewhere in California, in this region, then those are the kind of things where we really amp up the communication, the modeling, and making sure that we're all on the same page on what we think the threat is. Right? Now, our error bars are far less now, so we have to be much more precise in our work and also communicating to you on what that real threat is.
And why are they calling it auxiliary spillway now instead of emergency spillway?
That's the name we've been using as of, I think, yesterday.
Why is that?
That's the number that they're using at the local level here.
Eric C. has some more comments to be made about recreation here, Eric.
Yeah, just one more question. Are we good?
What is the exact?
Let me get back here and we'll come back here.
Down at Thermal View, is there any risk
No,
to that at all?
no, not, well, based on our current situation, there's no threat.
What about the erosion in the spillway itself? You said the hole was at about 3,200 feet. Where's it at now, and at what point do you have to turn off the spillway?
That's being reevaluated by our technical teams on that endpoint.
Okay.
I think nobody wants to get any closer. Again, that's subject to much discussion and further investigation. About 2,100, 22.
That's where it's at now?
No, that's one of our no-go points.
Okay.
Again, we would reassess with that information, at the time of the rate of erosion, if there is, and then also our hydrologic condition, the part of our power plant, and how's our auxiliary spillway working.
What was the last measurement you had for it?
I don't have that information, but we can get it to you. Yeah, so we should write that down. So.
Exactly, when do you think it'll peak at that 6,000 to 12,000 CFS on the auxiliary spillway?
I'd have to guess. I mean, that's why we have a range now. And so I don't want to give you a number because we'll be too high or too low.
What is it at right now, as best you know?
Well, I know as of 9 o'clock, it was, what was it?
The average spill at 9 o'clock was 668 cubic feet per second.
Yeah, so that's like 6 inches at 9 o'clock. But, again, it's going up. I think a total, when I looked at it, was a total of 1.7 feet.
Yes.
Yeah.
We expect the peak to occur sometime within 36 to 56 hours, something like that from right now. So in that range, we expect the peak to occur. Actually, we expect the spill to end sometime during that period.
Right. I'm asking, when do you think it'll peak?
I don't have that. We actually have a chart that predicts that, but I don't have that on my notes right now.
Can you repeat the questions, please, on the microphone for our viewers?
Okay. There was a question about when we thought this spill would end, and so the projection is the spill will end sometime between 36 and 56 hours from now.
And when would it peak?
As far as when it will peak, we have that information. I don't have it off the top of my head, though. I apologize.
But again, to me, the peak, I mean, it's good to know when the peak is, but the issue is we want to see that the flow over the weir stops. And then we get back into making storage within the reservoir.
I did want to point out, though, the peak flow, when it does peak, is predicted to be somewhere in the range of 6,000 to 12,000 cubic feet per second.
Another comment, CAL FIRE, again, they're here assisting the department. We really appreciate their stepping in next to us to help us with our process and communication, and so they've been a great help. And so, again, this is one incident command post. We got a number of different agencies working together here. We have CAL FIRE, Army Corps is here. We have 3 different emergency operations centers within the department activated right now in support of this operation, but also our flood operations. And so I'd be happy to answer any specific questions as well related to that at a later time. We good for now?
Eric wants to make some remarks to the public. Yes.
Yes, this is regarding recreation at Lake Oroville. Lake Oroville is a very large reservoir. It is has a lot of recreation components to it. I did want to point out that the area around the spillway right now we have closed off, but the rest of the lake is open. So there's multiple launch ramps around Lake Oroville that people can launch boats and recreate on. But we have closed the area around the spillway. But I wanted to point out that the rest of the lake is open.
Okay. Any other questions? Visitor Center open?
The Lake Oroville Visitor Center is open. It's staffed right now and operated by the Department of Parks and Recreation. I wanted to thank the Department of Parks and Recreation for providing us this facility and for their assistance in managing this incident.
I had a question for PG&E. So you attached the power system. Where does that go? Does it impact you anything?
No, there's no customers of. Sure. So the question was about removing the conductor or power line from those towers. It's not affecting any customers. We're able to serve all of our customers from other transmission lines. What we're doing now is working with DWR to identify sites out of the spillway that we can put different towers essentially to restore that line eventually.
Danny, while you have the mic, what's the output of that powerhouse when it's running normally?
That's not our powerhouse. That's DWR. You'd have to ask them.
Oh, okay.
We had this question come up yesterday. Okay, -1 point for me. As I thought, it's just under 800 megawatts. I think that's pretty close, if you don't hold me right to the number.
742.
Oh, there we go. Okay, there we go.
No, that's leaving.
742. There's my air bars. Okay? Thank you very much. So, Doug, tomorrow? Same time, same place?
We intend to hold another one tomorrow at noon, same time, same place. We intend to have the phone working by then.
Okay.
In the meantime, we bug you with it?
Yeah, bug me. 916-335-2299.
The Wi-Fi